Your life is the quality of your communication, and what you're putting out there is what you get back. This is why I created holistic postural analysis, because I could see that when people walked into a room, they were conveying a certain thing to the people around them. And as many people that work with me are attempting to get out of their persistent and chronic relationship patterns, meaning wherever you carry yourself, a similar pattern emerges, similar archetype, similar victim strategies, etc. I wanted to help people realize what was magnetizing those sorts of partners to them. And one thing we did realize was that it had something to do with the centers being out of balance, the head, the heart, and the body, the limbs, the instinctual center, which is near the pelvis. And when those were out of balance, it would create some sort of pull toward like a narcissistic man or some sort of perpetrator type. So as we got out of that pattern, rebalanced the centers, stood in the power, that magnetic feature always went away. And I first tested this on myself because I was attracting, abusive, distant, separated, solipsistic partners for a few years. I was like, what is going on? I'm doing the right things ostensibly. I'm trying to improve myself. I'm improving the masculine traits of bringing in resources, etc. And I'm still attracting this certain type of woman. And I found that I was collapsing in my heart, my solar plexus, and I started to bring that up. I found my feet again through a somatic exploration process, and I was able to stand fully in my core. And whenever I remembered to do this, standing in flow, I call it, the relationship patterns that attracted me to others and others to me changed. And another thing I noticed was that I was not a healer. The healer archetype had not really been activated yet in me early in life. I was the artist type. However, the healer archetype was running under the surface. So I would see someone who was wounded and damaged. I'd be like, oh, kind of drawn to them like a moth to a flame. After I began the healing work, after this intensive broken neck, healing 3-year journey, etc., I began to see that, oh, I was attracted for a certain purpose, that they were collapsed in certain body centers. They needed a certain amount of healing. And that's why I wanted to come into their life. It wasn't serving them at the highest for me to fall into a relationship with them. That was my own misunderstanding and misapprehension. So once I could see those systems and those patterns in play and those postural challenges, because whenever you collapse somewhere in your childhood, whenever you lose a fragment of your innocence, that piece of your body collapses. Shoot, shoot, you can see yourself sinking down. Look at an elderly person that's all hunched over. Of course, there are dietary features. However, there are people that eat anything and they're still upright and strong. So they're finding ways to kind of heal and grieve. And if you have an ungrieved loss stacked on top of another ungrieved loss, you keep collapsing and collapsing. You get angry and the liver collapses. You lose faith in yourself and the arches of your feet collapse. There's some old unresolved sexual thing and the knees turn inward, etc. So we begin to collapse on ourselves. And this holistic postural analysis is a way to help others just come alive and fall in love with life again through the only instrument we have for living life, which is our body. So this is fundamental. And every time I do this with executives, their life changes. And they're like, oh, I've worked with so many consultants. No one's ever done this. And the reason being, I learned this in a completely different tradition from a shaman woman who has since passed away, who got it from like the ethers, like very, very esoteric and out there. And I just have been applying it for the last over a decade to people in very strategic positions of power so that they could find themselves. Because I think a lot of the problems in the world come from us being detached from our bodies. This process brings you back in touch with your body. So it's the most pivotal, important thing possible. And if you're too head-centered, this can bring you to your heart. If you're making head-centered decisions with your emotions instead of the mind, which a lot of people are, like, I don't like that. We're hanging, I don't like that. I like this, I don't like that. And that's the duality we're meant to be caught in, according to the propaganda. And it doesn't serve anyone, it doesn't help you, it doesn't help anything. And it doesn't help you make logical decisions. I like this, so I'm going to do it. I like that, so I'm going to, even if something's like, I like shooting myself, so I'm going to go do that, right? It's like proverbially, you're doing something that's worse for you because you feel like it. So you want to be able to separate these head center from the heart center. And there's a very intricate system of how these centers work together. Like, there are parts that are supposed to do in the Sufic and esoteric Christian traditions. They're supposed to do certain things, and this is where the Enneagram arises out of. It's like, how do you balance these centers? Now, it's not really taught that way, and I don't teach it that way. It's just, when you balance these centers, you come alive again, and you can love with your full body and be loved again, and you can step out of victim mode, and you can realize the archetype from the individual, and that's what I want for you. So I'll put a link in the description that talks about the journey book, where there's a section where I walk you through some of this. This is a very holistic journey. Like, I can show holistic postural analysis and show you how to stand, and if you don't have the framework to talk about that or think about that or experience that, it's not going to work much for you. So every time I touch on this, it's the whole life, and we touch on the whole life through the body. So I'm so glad you're here. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you.